Have you ever wanted to make so much money that you don't even know what to do with it at all? Have you ever wanted to make money in less than 30 days? Have you ever wanted to pay off all of those student debts and have so much money left over that you just are handing them out to everybody in the neighborhood? Well, stick around, because when you use my... I'm kidding. No. I'm talking about filmmaking, okay? This is just what it is, okay? And if you want to get into the world of filmmaking and you give a shit about money, then you have come to the absolutely wrong place. Welcome to Adam S. Chase podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's get a good clean crisp for the sound. Okay. So yeah, I want to talk about filmmaking because this shit is hard, and I also have another podcast that is called the Get Realisms Podcast. That is with my mentor, and we discuss a lot of filmmaking. We have guests come on who are also in the film industry, kind of coming in and chiming in and giving their 2 cents. And my co-host, my mentor, my friend, Christine Chen, she is a writer, she's a director, she's a producer, she's done first AD. She's done like mostly almost like every single department in many ways. So we just shoot the shit. I'm the least talented out of the two for sure. But nonetheless, like, she is the one who taught me almost everything I know in the world of filmmaking. And I kind of wanted to give a brief history on this. I do feel like I probably touched on it a little bit, but probably not enough. And I don't recommend going all the way back to the first episode because, all these podcasts that I've done so far for Adam S. Chase is fun. I'm having a great time doing it. It's just the first 10, 15, 20 episodes, it is I don't want to say it's unlistenable, but it is definitely like, a stream of consciousness going all over the place because I was nervous. I didn't know what to do when I'm just, by myself. Although I always scream at my iPad, whenever I watch other podcasts or scream by myself in the car, giving in my 2 cents for literally nobody other than myself. Which is basically what Adam S. Chase podcast is. So, no, I'm kidding. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Please subscribe. So, yeah, to give a little bit of a history, back in the day, in around, I want to say, it's either 1998 or 99, and I can't remember. I saw the first movie that I remembered in the movie theater, which is Toy Story. Toy Story was one of those films that just fucking blew me out of the water. It was incredible. I never seen something so spectacular in my life that is just essentially, a buddy cop movie between a cowboy toy and a space toy, essentially. And I was so fascinated by that movie that I needed to know everything about it, and it wasn't until I think it was years later, not that long ago, whenever DVD has come into universal existence and has been a while or it's been around for a while, The thing that I do all the time is go through the special features, or as I like to call them, special featies, and essentially like go through every single BTS, go through the commentary, go through all that, because I was just fascinated by the art and the craft of filmmaking. And there's never been a day that has gone by that I've like never really like thought about anything else other than movies and of course music and games and whatnot. Um, it was one of those things that I was so fascinated by that I was like, do people like, so how does this work? Like how do movies work and shit, you know? And I've always stuck around and saw all the credits and be in amazement out of like as seeing how many people participated in any movie really. And it's hard to make movies. I mean, this is coming from a guy who's been 5 years, technically 6, but it's been 5 years because I lost a year during COVID. What a shit show that was. Holy guacamole. But I've been in this industry for 5 years, and making anything, even a short film, is extremely difficult. And so growing up, I've just kind of saw movies as sort of like this, I don't know, this like secret club that I've always wanted to be a part of because it seems like it's so much fun. Everybody's having a good time. They're all cracking jokes, laughing, and just really having a phenomenal time making it. Despite what the movie is or what it's about or if it's good, if it's not good, it didn't matter because shooting a film is quite literally like spending summer camp with nerds, essentially, and it's fucking awesome. Sometimes you run into people who don't want to be there or feel like they're above the position they're working in, or there's a bit of ego, and of course there's ego because I've worked with actors. I mean, come on. I'm kidding. No, there's a lot of phenomenal actors who are just salt of the earth, like great, good fucking people. And yeah, I felt like movies was like such like a club thing that like you can only be invited to if you knock on Hollywood's door or some shit like that. I was a young kid. I didn't know any better. I was hopped up on Tang and eating Burger King. What can you do? So, yeah, I was definitely fascinated, and I was intrigued, and I wanted to know everything about every single movie that I watch. And I always loved renting DVDs back in the day when Blockbuster was around. I had a Blockbuster card. I had a Hollywood Video card. And by that, I mean my sister had a Blockbuster card and a Hollywood Video card because we would both go to either of these rental places in a small town called Castro Valley, California, where I went to school and, basically grew up in, which for those of you who don't know, it's in the Yay area. I want to say east of Oakland, but I don't know if that's right. I don't know directions. I'm not a Boy Scout, so, I don't look at the sun and know exactly where I'm fucking going and shit like that. I'm not that smart. I'm not that crafty. But, yeah, it's a small town, a lot of old people, but, a diverse group of kids that we all kind of like, or at least I grew up with and went to school and, basically like started my journey as basically a filmmaker was just, making backyard videos on my sister's camcorder and, just having a fucking blast, just doing anything and everything that had anything to do with film. And I loved it so much. And I continue to love it, of course. But growing up, it was tough because, like, you know, I didn't have a lot of money. As a family, we just didn't have a lot of money. And going to the movies was very seldom because I was, you know, we were lower middle class. And it was tough. It was really tough, except for, you know, once in a while, like in a weekend, like a random weekend, I felt like I hit the lottery when we get to not only get one movie ticket, but we could get 2 movie tickets to like different movies and whatnot. I know people theater hop all the time, and you know, I learned that from my dad, and you know, I've definitely done that before. But yeah, like I knew we were like living royalty when we were able to to get tickets for more than one movie in one day. And it was like the best fucking time ever, you know? Except, you know, most of the time, like either both my mom or my dad, which they divorced when I was 6. So whenever I go with them, they always fall asleep. At some point, they doze off and fall asleep, and I'm the only one just like sitting there, just like enthralled by the entire fucking thing. No matter what movie we were watching, it could have been like a really bad fight. It could have been like, you know, Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin. And the reason why I bring that up is because there's one time I was watching in the theater Cheaper by the Dozen, the Steve Martin version, and I remember this like it was yesterday. There's a guy who just fucking like stood up. It was like in the middle seat in like the, you know, like where the main aisle is, and then there's the front seats, and then there's the aisle, and then there's the rest of the seats. So homie was like in the middle of like, you know, the first row before the big aisle. And this guy, and I was like towards the back, and this guy just just stood up, and he was like, "Fuck this," and just left. And it was like the first time I've ever seen like a heckler just fucking like throw in a towel and just left the theater. And yeah, I've always been fascinated by you know, the community aspect of going to the movies and remembering like shit like that. Like something that's like an unmemorable movie, but the experience lasts a fucking lifetime, you know? So I've always loved movies, clearly, right? And I wanted to be part of it. I didn't know technically what a director did, much less what a writer does. I just figured that it came out of fucking thin air, and then you hire a bunch of people to essentially hang around and make the thing happen, you know? Which was very reductive as me when I was a kid, but I was a child, you know? So, growing up, it was always, you know, a whole thing to just, you know, go to the movies and just have a good time. And that's all that I remember. And those experiences, even like, you know, when I was really young, like going to Blockbuster and all that, like it feels so weird to even talk about it because those experiences have fucking are way long gone, right? And I'm lucky enough to remember those experiences. However, you know, do I miss movie rental places? I don't know. You know, streaming rules. I fucking love it. It's great to just like, you know, think of a movie or think about a movie and just go, is that anywhere? Just Google it and boom, it's all like on these other streaming apps. You can just click on it and it'll link you directly to the streamer. And I feel like we live in a completely different and awesome fucking digital age, right? Although, you know, if you say that to a filmmaker or even a cinephile for that matter, they will laugh at you because streaming is I wouldn't say it's the best way of watching movies, but to me I mean, who cares, right? You're watching it, and are you enjoying it? Like physical media, I love as well, of course, because of DVDs and all the special features and everything. But like, you know, just even going on like streamers is definitely a wild experience for sure. Um, and you pay a flat rate of like what, 8, 9, $10, and you have every single fucking Disney movie, every single Fox movie, whatever. Or you go to Max and you get every single, almost every single Warner Brothers films and shit like that. It's just a different fucking time. So growing up, I was really bad at school, very bad. I had had like about a 3.1. That was like, or no, 3.2 was my best. But I would average anywhere between 2.6 to like a 3.0 or 3.1. I was very dumb. I was a very dumb kid in school. I still am. I'm just silly dumb, which is why I started a podcast. So I was really bad at school, and I didn't know what to do for college, because everyone I knew, went to college for communications or psychology or advertising or accounting or whatever, business, everything, right? And it felt like I was kind of paddling my own canoe with just wanting to be part of film, essentially. And I remembered going to community college, and I needed help like choosing classes and whatnot. And I thought, okay, well, if I get my general ed out of the way, then maybe I can transfer to a film school or transfer to a college where they have a film department and whatnot. Or, I've always like just wanted to be part of a film community in any school. And the school that I went to didn't really have a big the community college I went to didn't really have a film curriculum. I think there probably was, but it wasn't really much. And I was really bad. I was really bad at school because I was also working full time. So I gave up school pretty quickly, and I worked. I worked in retail for 10 years. I started when I was 16 years old and just kept working. And that's all I did. I worked. I became a manager at 19 years old, which is not a brag. I couldn't believe they in retrospect gave me keys to a store and access to a deposit with like thousands of dollars in it, and deal with cash at all times. As a 19-year-old, I just feel like that's fucking wild. That's crazy. But nonetheless, I was a manager, and I kept being a manager until I was 24, 25. It was when I moved here to Texas. And that was like one of the things that I became good at. I wasn't good from the start, but I kind of just became good. It was like a muscle. Like I just kept working it because I didn't really like talking to people. And I was shy. I didn't like, putting myself out there. And when you're working in retail, in order to, get any traction, you sort of have to be personal with customers and whatnot, but not, to the point of like a used car salesman where it just feels very sharky, feels very like, you're just at somebody's throats at all times. You give them the space, you give them the time if they need it, and help them out whenever they're looking for it, So I became fairly good at it, not great. And I never really moved past anywhere from managerial position. I never became a store manager, not technically, although I did kind of run a store for like a couple of months, but that was like, I wasn't getting paid for it. I was just, I burdened all of the store manager responsibilities getting paid as an assistant store manager salary. So, good shit, right? Um, so it wasn't until I moved to Texas, and before that, I've always wanted to go to film school and essentially like start my journey as a filmmaker. And I didn't quite realize at the time that I already technically did start my journey as a filmmaker. I just didn't really think about like, how I was going to get there. I just knew I needed to get to film school, and that's that. Then a few years goes by, and you don't have a lot of money, and time was ticking, and so an opportunity arose to move to Texas, and I've always heard that Austin had a really good film scene, and it does. So I decided to move to Texas, move here with my family, and I got here, and just I would say 3 months later, 3 months later in 2018, I got a gig. Or, well, I didn't get a gig, but I joined a vocational film school, and I got in, and I got paired up with a mentor who is Christine, who is my co-host of Get Realism's podcast, and I learned everything from her, and I went on my very first film set as a production assistant, and that set completely, like, it was the script was it wasn't great. It was made by a couple people who had money, but they just didn't they just didn't like quite know like how you would make a movie, I guess. But they had enough money to at least like finance it and whatnot. And I guess they just always wanted to make a movie. So, I was brought on to be a production assistant, and I essentially met some of the most talented, hilarious, wonderful people I have ever gotten the privilege to know. Like, it was truly like, if it felt like almost like a dream come true, because it was almost like as if like all that shit that I watched as a kid, watching like all the behind the scenes stuff was coming to life, and I was living it, and I was actively participating in this thing. Even though I was a production assistant, I was just fetching water, running errands, and doing all that stuff, fetching bug spray when we were outside and stuff like that, getting covered in bug spray because I was bitten by every single bug known to man, and still have. Every time I go outside, my body turns into a road map because I get bit by at least like 5 or 6 fucking mosquitoes every single time. So I enjoyed that experience so much. The other filmmakers that were on that in the crew didn't really have a great time, but nonetheless, we were all banded together, and we all like sort of like, at least I got to know a lot of these people, and it's like, it was, like I said, it was truly a wonderful experience. And I just remembered thinking to myself, I never want this shit to end. And ever since then, I learned a lot about the art department on that shoot, and I got to be lucky enough to partner with another friend and another mentor, Kelly. She it was a production designer on that shoot, and she taught me almost everything in art department, and how to be crafty and how to be fast and, keep your head on a swivel, and just pay attention to the frame, pay attention to what's going on, and eavesdrop on the directors and DP's conversations to know exactly where we're moving on, where we're going to next, because a lot of times in indie shoots, they don't really fill in the art department until the last second. So yeah, I enjoyed, and I still enjoy being part of that shoot and all the other shoots afterwards. Like there were a few shoots that weren't really as fun, and it made me appreciate the sets that are really fun and that are great and that are a great experience to be a part of, despite what the film is about, or who the director is, yada yada. Yeah, it was a great experience. And of course, like, I've worked with people who were kind of like sour apples. They, like some directors were not that easy to work with. And luckily, like, I've only done mostly set deck. And I've only been a couple of times where I was the lead in the art department, like production designer, but not in the way that is cool, like that, people or filmmakers would be on an indie shoot. My production design experience was more so like in the short film department, and I almost quit one time being the sole art department. I almost quit. Just because there was a lot to keep track of. I was not good at props. I was stressed out. I had to source a lot of things. It was definitely exhausting, to say the least. But it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about the industry. It taught me a lot about compartmentalizing everything, planning ahead, thinking ahead, because that's essentially what you do. And, you kind of want to think about it in active terms, so that when you are ready for the next scene or the next setup, whatever, you're already on it. You're there. And a lot of that is tough. It was really tough to learn. And the thing that and the reason why I brought up that I didn't quite realize that I already began my time as a filmmaker back then, when I was working retail, because you sort of have to communicate. You have to work with people, even with people who you might not really like. You still have to work with them nonetheless, and still keep a professional but like happy disposition, that doesn't affect the entire shoot, because I realized that like everything comes from top down. So when you work with a director who is like, not that fun to work with, who has like an attitude, or a producer that has like an attitude, whatever, it all trickles down. So I realized that like a lot of times, some of these people either never been on a film shoot, or they just feel like, they want to like kind of be the lone wolf and do their own thing, when that's not the point of being on a film set, period. You are there because you are working with really talented people, some of which are probably more talented than you could ever be in that respective department, which is why you hire them in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So, because no matter what, you learn almost in every single film shoot, even if it's a shit show, right? You still learn, you still figure things out, you still understand that as like, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. or you're going to be like, oh, this was useful. I'm going to do this. I definitely will follow this and whatnot. Which is why I'm on my way to becoming, hopefully, soon enough, a director. I'm writing my first script, which is really tough. Writing is very tiring. It's very exhausting, and I started a new draft not too long ago, and it is quite a process. It is a really big process. It's a huge undertaking to write a movie that I feel like not a lot of people really can understand until you actually do it. Because when you do it, there's like a whole set of challenges, especially writing this first script. Like the first go around of writing it, like this story, this script that I'm writing, I've had in my brain for 10 years, for a long time. And in fact, it's probably longer now at this point. And that same concept and that idea, like, I don't want to say change, it evolved, right? And it got better, in my opinion. It got better than the first thought at initial inception while I was working retail. And then, years later, I'm finally writing it and it's coming to life. It's a glorious journey. It's great, but it's equally daunting and scary and terrifying. So I feel like most of the time, when you're writing, it feels like, you are just, it is just you and your thoughts and yourself alone. It's a very solitary thing that I enjoy to a certain degree. And, there's like an old, I don't know if it was, I forgot what writer it was, but it might have been Dan Harmon. I don't know. But there's a writer that I listened to in a podcast a long time ago. And he was like, I don't know if I like so much as the writing process as much as I like having written. Like, I like a finished script. I like, getting to the end of your last page and writing fade to black or the end, and there's something rewarding about that. And it is really rewarding. Like the first time, the draft before this, when I finally finished it, it felt like, I don't know, it felt jubilant. It felt like a celebration. It felt like my birthday. Like when you're a child and, you get a surprise birthday and you see all of your friends, you see everything. It's like, that's how I feel. And it's sort of how I felt, working on my very first film set. And it definitely shifted my perspective, especially in writing. And there's a lot that comes with it, and not a lot of people understand it, like I said, until you are in the middle of it. You are in it. And so I enjoyed every part of that, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. As much as I love music, especially like music in like soundtracks and whatnot for films. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of podcasting too, but I'm literally just in the beginning stages of this, as y'all are probably aware if you're watching this right now. It's all a process, and as long as you're enjoying doing it, I feel like nothing else really matters. Criticism is criticism as long as it's like, constructive, elaborate, and it makes sense and it pertains to, what what you are doing, you know, whereas like there's some criticisms and some, you know, people, some assholes who are just, you know, want to hate just to hate on it. And I mean, I don't really have much advice on it other than that, like it's really like, it's kind of stale advice. Like I feel like many of you probably know this, but do what you love. Truly do what you love, because I mean, doing anything in this life, seeing the state of the world that it is right now, even though like, you know, numbers show that like, oh, the job market is steady, it's great, you know, unemployment is down, it's wonderful. It's still a struggle nonetheless. The wages have been stagnant, if anything, and everything is just way more expensive now. So for those, I don't know, yeah, for those who feel like things just are not quite feeling like you are getting the best out of your own life, or feeling like you have any satisfaction in any work that you put in, doing what you love will absolutely get you there. 100%. Even if it's not good, there's a 100% good, like, chance that you will work on something and it will just not be good. That's why I say do not listen to the first few episodes, because it is a struggle with this pod, but it's rewarding at the same time, because you get to work that muscle. You get to just like talk and have a stream of consciousness as much as any other craft, including filmmaking. Because when you first start off, you're just chicken with your head cut off. You're just listening in a earpiece. People are screaming at you. The first AD is telling you to hurry up and don't run on set, but hurry up. And then you wait once picture is up, roll camera, roll sound, and you're just waiting. You're waiting sometimes for hours, and then it's like, okay, set up next. Let's do this. Move fast. Go. Boom, boom. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot for some people, and I've definitely seen people, you know, come and go, you know, from the industry, because it is a lot. You know, sometimes you are on a shoot and the turnaround is 5 hours, and what that means is like you would end a day, and typical shoot days are 12-hour days, but sometimes, well, a lot of times, if you're working on indie shoots like myself, you will be over that time. Not all the time. There's lots of great producers and production and first ADs that are and second ADs that are really tight knit. They know what they're doing, but you work with some that just don't, and you know, 13, 14 hours goes by, and you have to be on the shoot at 6 a.m. the next fucking day. And so your turnaround is like maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, you know, of getting home, taking a shower, and going to bed, and then waking up and doing everything all over again. And it definitely put a toll on my body in a few circumstances. But again, once you reach the end and you're at the wrap party, and you know, you've been yelled at, you know, or you yelled at somebody and you didn't mean to, you know, that all kind of just goes away, because you realize that we're all in it together. And even though everything is tough, sometimes it's a drag, you still feel rewarded by just even participating in the first place. And maybe even seeing the finished product, you know, whether it's a screening or like it's a cast and crew screening or, you know, a premiere. It's very rewarding. It's great. And I recommend everybody to really follow what they love, you know, even if it isn't the dream. It is my dream for sure to be a filmmaker. But podcasting, it was like kind of like a whole other thing, right? You know, I first started listening to podcasts, holy fuck, in 2011 during the Nerdist podcast. And I've always loved that concept, where Chris Hardwick would just begin the podcast and, you know, would kind of have maybe like a little bit of an intro, but it would just like, it would go seamlessly into an interview. And most of the time, like the guests like would be questioning and be like, are we rolling? Is this happening? You know, because like what I hate the most in podcasts, and I don't know if y'all agree, but you know, introductions are important, but not in a way that like every podcast should have an intro. Does that make sense? I don't know. But like a great example of that is like Mark Maron, right? I listened to Maron even back then. And a funny thing, actually, the first podcast I've ever listened to was Nerdist, and then I moved to Mark Maron. But the thing that got me into podcasts was I was a huge fan of The Kroll Show. I love Nick Kroll. His stand-up is he's just a hilarious ass human being, and Kroll Show was one of the best like sketch shows I've ever seen. It's fucking hilarious. It's not on the air anymore, although I wish it still is. But one day I was on Twitter back then when before the Elon Musk, you know, right-wing resurgence kind of overtook the fucking website by force, essentially. It was just like a place where people just like plug their shit or like have opinions on movies or, you know, comic books or what have you. And one tweet I saw was from Nick Kroll, I think like retweeting something from the Nerdist podcast. And I was like, what is Nerdist? A podcast? Isn't that for old people? And I remember listening to it and I laughed my fucking ass off because Nick Kroll was on the Nerdist years ago. And I just fell in love with it. I thought this was great. And you would sometimes get some of my favorite episodes, which are the hostful episodes, which had Chris Hardwick and the other two co-hosts, Jonah Ray and Matt Myra, who Jonah Ray is like a music guy and Matt Myra is a writer. I mean, they're both writers and they're fucking hilarious. And so whenever they have their hostful, it's like you're just hanging out with friends and whatnot. And I've always thought to myself, I really want to do that. But just like filmmaking, I feel like I have to knock on somebody's door or I have to ask for permission and shit like that. And you don't need to. You know, you just start it, you begin it, it happens. And so I love doing it, and I still love doing it. I love doing this, even with the few subscribers and the few watchers. I appreciate anybody who watches it, especially this episode. And yeah, I think that doing what you love is probably the most important thing you can get out of life, because no amount of money and no amount of time is ever going to satisfy you, because time is never on your side, and because it's just time, right? It just keeps fucking going. So time's not on your side, and money, while it is useful, it is very nice to have money. I you know, as a set deck, I would love to be making a lot of money, but at the same time, it's like I'd rather do this for the rest of my life because I enjoy it. I love it. Even if I'm not making hand over fist, it is just, I hope that I generate something out of it. But at the same time, it's just great to just talk and just like get my thoughts just out, you know? So this has been a real treat. It's been a real treat, and it's something that I can do myself, and I can build it all on my own. So yeah, I mean, follow your heart, y'all, you know, do what you love. It is going to be tough, and it's going to be tough for a while, you know, because you're looking at it right now, you know, it's you know, sometimes like when you're even in the film industry, there are going to be times where you won't get a job for a while. You're just going to be in between, side gigs and, doing whatever you can, doing whatever you can to keep the lights on, essentially. And I would love to do this for the rest of my life, unless I just, somehow just grow sick of it. But I haven't yet, and I don't think I will. I hope not anytime soon. But yeah, like I said, making money is great, but doing something that you love is, to me, is just all the more rewarding. So I didn't intend for this to be like some sort of like inspirational thing. This is just me just kind of like talking about my history and all that, because I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was like, I never really like took a retrospective on everything that's kind of led up to today. And I'm in no way, shape, or form successful. However, I do feel that there's a little bit of reward after doing a long, arduous, tedious set, or, doing a podcast episode and you feeling like, especially editing some of the episodes, I'm just like, and there's been a couple of times where I recorded and it just did not work at all. And I am not going to waste my time on it, because, it's a drag. It's a lot. You don't know if it's going to work, if it's going to stick, but as long as you keep trying and you're having fun doing it, that's all that matters, really, in this cruel world, and if you've been keeping up with the news, election is coming up. It feels like the country is way more divided than ever before. It's nice to work with people who enjoy the shit that you do. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. 48 minutes. That's just what it is, baby. 45 to an hour for these pods. That's just my jam. And hopefully soon I will bring in guests, but I think what I want to do in the future for these podcasts is keep doing what I do. But I definitely want to bring in filmmakers for sure onto our pod, Adamus Chase. So that'll be brewing very soon. And I hope y'all will tune in and join me on this crazy journey that is Adamus Chase. For I am Adam Chase Rennie, and that's just about it. Okay, so I hope y'all are doing good. I hope y'all are staying safe, drinking plenty of water, not talking to strangers, washing your hands, you filthy animals, and do what you love and keep doing what you love, because there's never going to be a time in your life where, you think about the things that you want to do and you think, well, I can't because of X, Y, and Z, or, this and that. When you do it and it's tedious and sometimes you feel like you might not be going anywhere, you are going somewhere. It just takes time. Even though it's not on your side, as long as you keep making the things that you want to make, pretty soon it'll all come to fruition. And hopefully, I don't know about hopefully. It's definitely going to be a thing. I definitely want to make my first feature. Hopefully my first of many, but who knows? I'm very excited about the script, and I hope you get excited about the shit you do too. You know? So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining my TED Talk. I'll see you next time, y'all. All right, stay safe. Bye.